The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. And just like that, Cato, week 5 of the college football season is upon us. Welcome into another Prediction Tuesday of the Hard Count. The Hard Count presented to you by BetMGM. It is a glorious September 23rd, 2025, last one on the face of the planet. This slate is juicy, dude. Like, you look across every single window, there's a game to get fired up about. This is one of those weeks now where typically we would try to give you every single prediction for every single big game on our Tuesday show. However, with how stacked this slate is, man, we're going to bleed into tomorrow with some of our picks. But today, we got Oregon, Penn State, we got Bama, Georgia. We got a ton to get into. We will waste no more time. But if you're a college football sicko now, and you know who I'm talking about, the people that watch full game reruns on YouTube during the offseason, the people that are tracking the message boards like a hawk, the people that follow recruiting, that follow the portal, that live and die with their team every Saturday. If that's you, I'm guessing it is. If you're watching this show, make sure you're subscribed, because guess what? You're just like us, for real. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our BetMGM game of the week. It's Oregon going to Penn State. Happy Valley, whiteout conditions, 7:30 Eastern, NBC, Beaver Stadium. I cannot wait for this one, man, because to be real, the season starts, especially for Penn State, really for both teams in this game, okay? And typically I'd give you a breakdown for either side of this emotionally ahead of this game, but I think the emotional temperature and the emotional challenge for both these teams is kind of the same. Like, I think both these teams are wanting to announce themselves as real deal in the context of this college football season. That's not saying anything less of what Oregon did to Oklahoma State or Northwestern or anything less of what these teams are ranked, but I think there's still a feeling for us watching both these teams, saying, all right, that's cool that you beat a Villanova. Cool you beat FIU. That's awesome you essentially took the tires off of Oklahoma State if you're Oregon. But you want to prove you're legit? You want to have, like, real deal respect to where people see you as the top team in college football, top team in the Big Ten, potentially, depending on how you look in this spot. Go take it. Respect is taken. It's not given out. It's not given out by people. It is taken. So, in this spot, Oregon and Penn State, who's going to take it? Excited to watch that one. How much have both sides of this thing saved? Because you look at the OCs in this game. Andy Colton-Necki for Penn State. Will Stein for Oregon. One, neither side has really had to be too creative to this point in the year. Oregon has been a little bit more creative. But for Penn State, your season starts this Saturday in Happy Valley. I'm not calling anything exciting if I'm Andy Colton-Necki against FIU. I'm not emptying the clip against Villanova. No disrespect to those teams. I am making sure that everything that we're going to call in this spot that we like, Oregon, we're not letting you see ahead of time. So there's been a lot of discussion around, oh, well, what has Drew Aller been to this point in the year? Oh, they started slow. And, like, I hear where that's coming from. I don't even think that's incorrect to think that way. But we were saying the exact same thing around Georgia before the Tennessee game, right? And then what happened? The offense exploded for 44 points. Gunnar Stockton went berserk, threw for over 300 yards, and we came away from that game saying, oh, okay, actually they are pretty good offensively. We might be saying the same thing about Penn State after this one. If nothing else, I guarantee you they'll be more aggressive, more exotic, and they'll show a lot more they've been saving to this point in the season. For Oregon, I wonder a little bit, not how much they've saved so much as I alluded to before. I wonder how much they have out there that they are going to use to set up Penn State in this spot. Because Oregon, they have been more creative. They lined Kenyon Sadiq up at quarterback, the all-everything tight end for them, or I'm assuming he's going to be an all-everything tight end for them in a one Kenyon Sadiq. They've done some sleight of hand, some creativity has Oregon, but I wonder what they've put out there on film that they wanted Penn State to see, that Penn State had to practice for during the course of this week leading into this game. And maybe Will Stein pulls a little Uno reverse card on some things that he's shown and ends up being an advantage for Oregon in the spot. I don't know. But a big storyline in this one and a key matchup for us, Dante Moore in the chess game that he's going to have against Penn State's DC, Jim Knowles. Now, Jim Knowles, you remember him from Ohio State a year ago, dude's the Mad Hatter of college football. Like, he brings pressure. It's a bunch of rule-breaking looks defensively. He gets in your quarterback's head and makes him second-guess himself. So for Dante Moore, not only do you have that DC on the other side of this matchup for you, you also have the most difficult road environment you've played into this point in your career. Even going back to UCLA, this will be the most raucous environment. So toughest DC matchup plus toughest environment. Interesting spot for A1 Dante Moore. I think we should note this, though. Dante Moore has been in Oregon's system under Will Stein for 2 springs, 2 fall camps. The Penn State defense has been under Jim Knowles' tutelage for like all of 15 minutes. How aggressive is Penn State able to be to also keep the integrity of their scheme defensively? Because remember, those Ohio State defenses, as good as they were under Jim Knowles, that first year he was there was a couple of times you're like, they got beat there in that play because of their own positioning, because they didn't seem to be totally on the same page. And when you're going to be aggressive and break rules as a defense, you leave yourself for the opportunity to get got. So Dante Moore now, if he can handle the spot and see it all in real time, see it all being the scheme that Jim Knowles thrown at him, there's going to be some plays to be had out there. So Dante Moore seeing it, handling the moment, calibrating, and then Jim Knowles and the aggression and quite frankly, creativity he's going to try to call up on the defensive side. That's going to be really, really curious. My take on this is who's able to just be more sound will win this side of the matchup. And who wins this matchup could very well win the football game. If Dante Moore goes out there and he's seeing ghosts, like we say a lot on this show, turns into 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers in an environment that will be the wideout, which would only get the crowd even more on top of you, which then causes the confidence to, you would imagine, by human nature, start to decrease for Dante Moore in his first big-time road start. Like, you see where I'm going with this. That would be a bad world for Oregon. But if he's able to find the weak spots in this defense, maybe Penn State's a little bit off their game. Maybe they're not totally synced up in their 4th game now here under Jim Knowles in this Penn State defensive scheme. Big plays happen. Wideout gets turned down. Dante Moore's comfortable. Confidence grows. Offense has to answer scores. Just not the world you want to live in if you're Penn State. Now, I'll be surprised if either side of this just totally owns the line of scrimmage. Like Penn State last year ran for 296 against Oregon. They own that side of the matchup. Now, they lost the game, but they own that side of the matchup. I think Oregon will take last year's matchup in the Big Ten title game a bit personally. I'd be shocked if Penn State went for 2 bills, darn near 3 bills on the ground again. And the same thing for Oregon, averaged 4.5 yards a carry last year on the ground. Maybe they have a decent showing on the ground, but I don't think either side of this will be the backbreaker for this matchup in and of itself. Like, I think both sides are great on the line of scrimmage. I think Penn State, they have, 6-7 offensive linemen they could play. That's not making a reference to that whole 6-7 deal. It's just how many offensive linemen Penn State could play. And then Oregon in and of themselves, they got like several defensive linemen they could play. They're legit 2 deep across the board there. So if that's the case, I think you'll see a stalemate on the line of scrimmage for both the offensive and defensive side for these 2 teams. So that makes me think, okay, the matchups then that I'm focusing on shift out to the perimeter. Penn State, we talked about it a lot. You had an Orange Bowl game where you came down to the final drive where Drew Aller throws a pick, and you look at that game after you lost. Notre Dame wins, go to the national title game, whatever. You're like, man, Tyler Warren was our only guy doing anything in the pass game for us that game. Like, what we got to find a way to get better. So they do. They go to the portal. They get several receivers. Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson. Need y'all to step up big in this spot, man. Need it. Absolutely need it. If you're going to be Oregon, you're not going to do it in a one-dimensional sense. And if you're going to be Oregon, you got to maximize your dude, Drew Aller. Like, Drew Aller, I think, physically has all the giftings to be the best quarterback in America, but those giftings are only so good as you're able to support him when it comes to guys on the outside. So it's been a slow start for that group. Curious to see if they can ramp it up here in this spot in their biggest game of the season. Now, for Oregon, I love how versatile they are. I mentioned Kenyon Sadiq. Expect him to see the football every single which way, whether it's jet sweeps, whether it's the screen game, whether it's vertical. And then DeCorian Moore is a true freshman receiver for them, top receiver in America a year ago at the high school level. He does not play like a freshman. Like 50-50 ball, the way that he just consistently wins those jump balls, and it's impressive to see for a guy who's been playing football at the collegiate level all of like a cup of coffee. The thing that I'm watching here for Oregon is how versatile they are with those position groups. Malik Benson, another guy that got over from Florida State, real deal speedster. The versatility that Will Stein has to work with, against a defense that I think could still be totally getting settled in their Jim Knowles makes me think that Oregon's going to have a chance to score some points here in this spot because of the matchups they can dictate. When I can move Kenyon Sadiq around from the slot to in line to out wide, same thing with Malik Benson, with DeCorian Moore. When I can move my guys around, I get to pick my matchup. If I can pick my matchup and I trust my quarterback, Will Stein does, good things happen. So in this spot now, who are we picking? This has a feel to me of being like a last drive situation. I think that Oregon and their having to play, albeit slightly, but better competition to this point in the year will serve them well. It's tough to pick against Penn State when there's a wideout situation going on, but I'm going to do it, man. I think it comes down to the last drive. I think Oregon walks it off with a field goal in Happy Valley. I don't think Penn State's some fraudulent team. I just think Oregon's better. I think they're hotter, and I think that their momentum going into this game with the teams they've played to this point will serve them well. I got the Ducks getting it done in the BetMGM Game of the Week. Final score, Oregon 27, Ducks 24. So by nature of Oregon outright, we take them to win, take them to cover. Go ahead and take Oregon money line in this one. Ducks win in Beaver Stadium. But that one's going to be one where you get all the money's worth, whatever you pay for that one. So that'll be a lot of fun. Next up, big one in the SEC. You got Alabama. Going to Athens, Georgia here, 7:30 Eastern, ABC, between the hedges. Georgia, favored by 3 at the crib. If you're Alabama, there's a chance to make people mention that Florida State game second in their conversation when they speak about you. Not that you just totally forget it. There's still some work to be done. But if Bama goes into Athens and beats a Kirby Smart team for the second year in a row, Kalen DeBoer gets one over on Kirby, we'll say, okay, it started slow, not ideal, don't love that, still a little bit side-eyeing that game against Florida State, but to get back on track and to beat Georgia at their place, we're mentioning that first. That's the first thing we're saying about Alabama here going forward. Now for Georgia, is the Tennessee win for you one that makes you think, okay, cool, we are who we think we are, offense is rolling, great, good for us? Or is it okay, that was good, but Tennessee had it lined up to end that game in regulation. If they hadn't missed that field goal, we're sitting here with a loss, boys. Does that create more urgency that Tennessee win, or does it create the relief syndrome? If it's a relief syndrome thing, they're going to get beat. Make no mistake about that. Break this game down right now. Before we move forward here, college football sickos, make sure you're subscribed. College football content year-round on this show, The Hard Count, on this platform, the On The YouTube channel. If you love this game with every fiber of your being, if you're a Georgia fan or a Bama fan, make sure you're subscribed, all right? So we appreciate you, college football sickos, for being dialed in. As I break down this game, I got a couple things I'm worried about for both sides, but one big one for each. And my question going into this thing is what I'm concerned about for Bama or Georgia what fries them up and cooks them. Because for Bama, the offensive line, as talented as they are, as much as we spoke about them going into the year, I don't know if I love what I've seen from them so far. Like that Wisconsin front seven got a good push. We spoke so often after that Wisconsin game for Alabama about Ty Simpson standing in there, knowing he's going to get hit, delivering a C to Jeremy Bernard or Ryan Williams, whoever. And as much as I love that from Ty Simpson, I don't want my quarterback getting hit like that. Because if Wisconsin's getting a push, it's a Georgia front seven, and Georgia, no disrespect to Wisconsin, they're going to give you more to handle than what Luke Fickell's program gave you to handle. Okay, so is that what ends up just being like the end-all, be-all? Hey, Bama can't get a push. Bama can't protect Ty Simpson. Therefore, game blouses, Georgia at home. That's the game. Is that the story? I don't know. Remains to be seen. But if Alabama doesn't figure it out up front, it's at least on the table when it comes to the realm of possibility. Now, for Georgia, what I'm worried about with them is the secondary. And it's a lot of young players. This entire team is young, to be honest. It's like first and second year players make up 80% of this team. But, hey, man, I love Tennessee, and them going for 371 against Georgia is impressive, and you hat-tip Joey Aguilar, you hat-tip Josh Heupel. But, hey, it's still a Kalen DeBoer offense out there in Tuscaloosa. And as good as Tennessee is at the receiver position, Bama's better. Bama's got 2-3 dudes that are going to play on Sundays, like in that room right now, from Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. So if you don't figure it out on the back end, Ty Simpson looks comfortable. He could cook you up there. Like, you got to figure out a way to get better on the back end of this defense if you want to have a chance in this game, if you're Georgia. So either side of that for me will be telling. If it's just a massive advantage for Georgia up front or for Alabama at the wide receiver position, and that just is the matchup that gets spammed by either side of this, that could be the story we tell on Sunday morning when we're reacting to this game. Now, from Georgia, you watched the Florida State tape, and it's a better Alabama outfit since that game happened in week one. But I say that to get to this point. Alabama, yeah, they looked lethargic. Yes, they looked like they were unintentional in a lot of ways with how they went about that game. And that's, I think, a big reason why they got beat. But the thing that sticks out to me if I'm Georgia watching back the Florida State game is the lack of discipline from Alabama. I'm not talking about penalties. I'm talking about purely like how they were playing the game. It was reverse city for Florida State. They were getting the defense flowing one way, speed back the other way, gash play. Hey, quarterback run and some window dressing going for you. You're rolling one way, Castellanos the next way. Now, Gunnar Stockton is not Thomas Castellanos with what he can do in the open field, but still he's good enough to get a first down against you. Good enough in the red zone to get in the end zone against you. So I promise you, Mike Bobo will break out the Willy Wonka game plan, ton of eye candy. All right, expect motions pre-snap, expect different RPOs across the entire game, expect a look one way to one side of the field and then they're running it back the other way. It'll be a lot of can you stay disciplined Alabama on the second and third level to keep up with what we're doing in space if we're Georgia. Because if Bama wants to roll out there and have that same level of discipline against Georgia they had against Florida State, which is, again, 0, Zachariah Branch is good enough to gash you in space. Dylan Bell, good enough to gash you in space, so on and so forth. So how Bama plays that is going to have a large part in asking what you are requiring of your offense in that point if you're Alabama. Because if Georgia gets up 14-0 and it's like, hey, Ty Simpson needs you, brother, to get this thing rolling, I like Georgia's ability to secure it on the back end, knowing Bama's going to throw it if it rolls that way. So curious to see how that whole thing plays out, but the defensive discipline for Alabama in this game is going to be huge, have a massive part in the game flow of this whole thing. Now, Alabama in this game will get Tim Keenan back in the middle of that defense, big defensive lineman. They will also get, I think more importantly for the offense here, Jam Miller back, running back for them. Bama really hasn't had any edge than running the football to this point in the year. And you look at the run-to-pass ratio, it's like 55% pass is Alabama. It doesn't really sound very Bama-ish, does it? Doesn't really sound very joyless murder ball-ish, does it? I wonder with Jam Miller back in the lineup here, does that just change the complexion of how they call the offense? Are you allowed to then take some pressure off Ty Simpson? Can you set the tone in the run game? Can you be a little bit more, third and manageable as opposed to third and passing? If they can, that's going to be huge. Because at that point, then, you get to be much more dynamic with how you call the offense. If you're Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, you set up a lot less of a pass rush for that Bama O-line than I'm worried about. You kind of simplify your game plan because you're more downhill in the run game, all those things. So that's something to watch for in this game, Jam Miller being back and how that impacts how Bama calls the offense here. Are they a little bit more run-friendly? I think you got to be multiple against Georgia. As bad as they were on the back end against Tennessee, I think you got to find a way to be multiple. So here's the thing. I told you, the thing that I'm worried about for Alabama in this game is the offensive line. That's a tough thing to worry about in the spot for me. Both teams off a bye week. Both teams had a whole 7-day stretch now to get prepped going into game week. I've picked Georgia twice in this game in the last couple of years and been wrong. I'd feel foolish if I flipped now. If I go back for Kalen DeBoer this side and then pick him to beat Kirby 2 years in a row, and then Georgia wins, I'm just like, man, I don't know if I like the way that feels. So I don't see Kirby Smart getting got twice in 2 years. I think that he will, having played the safety position himself in the SEC, take what happened against Tennessee personally. If Ty Simpson just goes out there and shreds them, then I'll jump on this show on Sunday morning and we'll eat crow and we'll talk about it. But I have a hard time seeing Kirby allow that secondary to look the way they looked against Tennessee 2 games in a row. I don't know that Alabama on this line of scrimmage is able to just snap their fingers and have a different level of physicality than what we saw from them against Wisconsin and, quite frankly, what we saw from them against Florida State. So I'm trusting my eyes. I'm seeing the Georgia team that's got a little edge to them. I'm seeing a Gunnar Stockton-led offense that's got a little bit dynamic to them. And for that reason, I'll take Georgia at home. Final score, Georgia 37, Georgia 30, Bama 27. So if you want to bet that, right now it's Georgia -3. That's a push in our book. But Georgia wins the football game at home between the hedges and stays unbeaten. And Kirby gets his lick back over Kalen DeBoer. Dogs win at the crib. It'll be a fun one, though, man. Again, if you've watched this show, you know I have no idea how to pick games with Kalen DeBoer. I mean, when he was at Washington, too, couldn't get a feel on it. Whenever we've picked Kalen DeBoer, they've lost, for the record. So if you're a Bama fan, congratulations. Looks like Bama just won the game based on our pick. One more game I want to get to here before we address some news in the SEC as it pertains to annual opponents. This is kind of a quiet one, kind of flying under the radar, under the shadow of Bama, Georgia, and the Penn State, Oregon game. LSU goes to Oxford, Mississippi this weekend. LSU at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 2.5, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN. LSU, man, they popped that first game against Clemson, and a lot of people jumped on our bandwagon of picking LSU to win the national championship in the preseason. It was like, okay, LSU, they're going to do it this year, right? And then LSU's still won games from here on out, but they haven't been quite as exciting with how they've done it. Offense struggles a little bit. Brian Kelly's calling media members spoiled. I digress. I'm curious to see how LSU in this spot responds to the narrative around LSU. Because if I'm in that locker room, man, I'd be pissed. Like, what do you mean the Clemson win isn't good anymore? It's good when we got it on the road. Open the college football season, wasn't it? I think that locker room will respond the right way, but I'm excited to see it. That's how I'd feel about it going into this game because Ole Miss favored by 2.5. Okay. Ole Miss, kind of the wild card of the SEC, huh? We talked all offseason about how good Austin Simmons is and what he did in that one drive against Georgia, and he was handpicked by Lane. And then we look up here and like Trinidad Chambliss is putting on a show, dude. 2 weeks in a row, balled out of his mind. First against Arkansas, then against Tulane. He gives them a different level when it comes to what they're doing offensively. His presence in the run game, too, you got to make sure you're accounting for that. Otherwise, he hurts you. Transfer from Ferris State. Exactly. Everything you say about Lane Kiffin and the portal and how they overuse that, say what you want there. They can evaluate Trinidad Chambliss and what he's doing right now is proof of that in my mind. So if Ole Miss goes out and beats LSU, they're no longer a secret in the SEC or in the college football playoff conversation. Like Ole Miss will very much so have arrived, in my humble opinion. Going back to Trinidad Chambliss, though, I love watching that dude play football. Like I want to hang out here for a second. To me, he's like a supercharged athletically version of what you get with Baker Mayfield. Great presence throwing the ball downfield, accurate, plays on time, super poised. But he fits this offensive scheme under Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin, I think, better because of what we already said, what he gives you with his legs on the ground. Last year, Jackson Dart running through people's faces. Dude was a linebacker at one point in time during his career, was Jackson Dart. How many times did you see that pay dividends in the red zone or on third down or on design quarterback run on third and short? Like, you now have that with Trinidad Chambliss, except it's not a run-through-your-face kind of tempo when he runs the ball. It's a he's in the open field, and he might gash you right here kind of feel to it when he's running the football. Just a smooth player. I'm really excited to see the matchup between Trinidad Chambliss and his acclimation to football in the SEC and playing FBS football, period, against Blake Baker and the kind of pressure they're going to apply on the defensive side of the ball for LSU. Like, there's two matchups that I'm watching with Trinidad Chambliss and the LSU defense. There's the pre-snap part of this, where I think Blake Baker will try and mix it up, give him different looks, try and get him thinking one thing, and they're actually showing him a different thing. And it's just like we're playing the eye candy game for your pre-snap, Trinidad, trying to show you some different things you haven't seen. Best defense he's seen to this point in his college career, for the record. Then there's the post-snap part of this, which I think might be the most exciting and most important part of this whole thing. We mentioned it during the Clemson preview for LSU with Cade Klubnik and his mobility. Trinidad Chambliss is more mobile and more slippery than Cade Klubnik, which will make this more exciting for all of us as college football fans. There's going to be a lot of moments where Trinidad Chambliss drops back, gets pressure from one side, loses ground, breaks contain. Right there is where I want to pick up. Those 5 seconds with Harold Perkins in pursuit or Whit Weeks in pursuit, that is going to have a massive impact in how this game swings. If they get home and it's a strip sack or it's a tackle for a loss or whatever happens in favor of LSU right there, okay, then you set up Trinidad Chambliss in a, call it second and long, third and long, maybe it's getting off the field on third down, I don't know. Or it's a Chambliss evades pressure, eyes downfield, someone eventually gets loose, first down Ole Miss, big play Ole Miss, okay, we got momentum, we got tempo, we go now. Got momentum. That's where I think this game is really interesting. So who wins the majority of those we would call competitive plays going to have a massive impact on, I think, who wins this game in general. If I'm Brian Kelly in this spot, I am throwing the gauntlet down for my offensive line. I'm giving them all the press clippings. I'm showing them what people are asking me during the week about our offensive line and how we can't run the ball. Ole Miss, the way that they align defensively, they have 3 true defensive linemen on the field. They're allowing 5 yards a carry right now. Is that Ole Miss defense? LSU, if we can't run the ball against this team, dude, we got to start talking about our postseason aspirations. Right now, LSU, as an offense, is 83rd in America in yards per carry. If I'm Brian Kelly, I tell my O-line, man, hey, we run the football, we win this game. Trinidad Chambliss and all the things he does off schedule and how fun he is to watch, all the good things I just said about him, how much I like Trinidad Chambliss, if he doesn't get on the field, it doesn't matter, right? How do you keep him off the field? Extend drives. How do you extend drives? Pick up first downs. How do you usually pick up a first down? You be multiple offensively. If you can just run the ball, Caden Durham, we can just go north and south, we win the game. That is what I'm saying to my offense. Run the ball, win the game. Nuss, we love you. Big spot for you here. We'll talk about you in a second, but if we run the football, we win the game if we're LSU, okay? Now, on the same side of that thing with LSU's offense, there is going to be something here from Garrett Nussmeier with how he processes this defense, because Pete Golding, their structure of their defense is heavy on the speed side, but it's almost a conservative defense from a structure perspective, but aggressive from a play style perspective. They play with 5 DBs on the field. Okay, so again, speed, but they get downhill. Like they're not a team that's going to just sit back and let you dink and dunk the entire way. They're going to rally to the football, play with aggression, and try to force you to make those mistakes when they fly up around the football. Okay, so if I'm Garrett Nussmeier, there could be some explosives here, is how I feel about this thing. I think that looking back at the Arkansas game with how Taylor Green carved them up at times, how many points the Razorbacks scored, I'm seeing that. I'm trusting that. I'm saying there's going to be plays out there, boys. We just got to be on our P's and Q's. We got to make sure we're going the right place with the football. We're not getting overwhelmed by their speed, by their pressure off the edge. If we go the right place with the ball, Garrett Nussmeier, we're going to score points. We're going to set ourselves up. We're going to win games. So this game, as someone who picked LSU to win the national championship, makes me nervous. Okay, it makes me nervous because I think right now Ole Miss is kind of the hippo of the SEC. Cute, fun story. Oh, Lane Kiffin, yeah, we know what he is. We know how they operate in the portal, and, they're 113th in returning production, so they're kind of a little bit unknown. Hippos, according to, I think it's like BBC.com, #1 most deadly animal in the world. So Ole Miss, just because you don't know a lot about them, just because you don't really correlate them to a team that would be a problem for you any given week all the time, you think about that being like your Georgia, your Bama, your Texas. Ole Miss, they're lethal. And Trinidad Chambliss is a massive reason why. I think last year's LSU team probably would have walked into this spot and lost this game. Now, I know they beat Ole Miss last year in Baton Rouge, but I think in this spot, with all the momentum around LSU and all the things being said about them right now, I think last year's team would not have been mature enough to handle a game like this. The defense wouldn't have been good enough to handle a Trinidad Chambliss, make that very clear. However, I think this year's team is more mature competitively. I think this year's team has responded to this point the correct way to certain narratives. So I'm going to take LSU in a close one to get it done in Oxford. 31-27. I just think the defense and what they're going to do to throw Trinidad Chambliss off his game will be enough in this spot to get him a win. And I think that Garrett Nussmeier, the experience card for him, even if you don't run the football as well as you would like to here, that's a discussion to have after the game, but I think Nuss is good enough to find the spots in this defense, to find the spots in all the real estate they're going to leave available to you. I think LSU wins this game. So we'll take them to win. We'll take a money line. Obviously, take them to cover if we have them win the game. LSU gets it done, again, 31-27 in Oxford. But good week in the SEC this week, man. Between that game, between Bama and Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, we'll talk about tomorrow. But speaking of the SEC, our very own Chris Lowe broke some massive news on Monday morning. Okay, the SEC moving to 9 conference games. They're going to have 3, not permanent now, but 3 annual opponents that each team is going to be dealing with here. This is getting announced officially, I believe, tonight in a broadcast from ESPN, a whole television special. Chris Lowe got it early, man. Here's the thing. They prioritized competitive fairness and traditional rivalries. Kind of already knew that was coming, but it's good to hear it out loud and good to see it based on who these teams are assigned to play. So you got Texas A&M protected. You got Georgia, Florida protected. This is going to be reevaluated every 4 years. So if you're like, dang, we really drew the short end of the stick here. If we're, I don't know, Texas A&M, man, we're we're going to play LSU, Missouri, and Texas. That sucks. Okay, well, we're going to kind of keep a pulse on this thing every 4 years, and it could change. I want to break down a couple of thoughts here, and then I want to talk about this with Caden Smith here in a matter of moments. Hardest schedules to me, a couple of teams that jump out. I mentioned A&M. A&M and Arkansas have the same 3 annual opponents, in LSU, Missouri, and Texas. Now, LSU with Brian Kelly, the way they're trending, I feel very strongly about them going forward. They're always going to recruit well, I think. They'll always be a force to be reckoned with from a talent perspective. Same deal with Texas. I don't think Texas is falling off the face of the map anytime soon. Say what you want about Arch Manning. Sark's the head coach there. Seems like he wants to be there for a while. I think they're going to be a wagon. And then Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri. Like, looking at just the head coaches, A&M and Arkansas draw, they have the same opponents in LSU, Missouri, and Texas. I think that is a tough situation to be in when it comes to the teams that you draw over the course of these next 4 seasons. Then Auburn also has to be mentioned. You have Georgia and Alabama on your schedule. I don't care what's happened with Kalen DeBoer so far early in his career at Bama. It's still Georgia. It's still Bama. And then you got Vandy. Vandy is supposed to be, I think, in this discussion, if I'm reading this correctly, like the one that kind of takes something off the plate for Auburn. The way that Clark Lee's got that thing trending, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I know Diego Pavia doesn't get 20 years of eligibility, but still, it's like Vandy in the way that they are progressing and trending, that might not be the easiest of outs here going forward. So Texas, A&M, Arkansas, Auburn, all tough draws. The easiest schedule to me, off rip here. Tennessee plays Bama, which, okay, 3rd Saturday in October. Protect it. Love it. Vandy, I told you, they might not be an easy team to handle the rest of the way, but I think that them paired with Kentucky, I'd much rather play those 2 teams as opposed to a LSU and Texas or some of these other teams across the SEC. So my biggest takeaway, though, is let's be slow to be emotional about this. It's going to change. What do you want these people to do when it comes to putting these schedules together? Like, you're going to have Texas not play Oklahoma, have Texas not play A&M, have Georgia not play Auburn. So there's some of this where I'm like, I don't really know that you're allowed to be that upset about this, depending on who you are. I mean, you're allowed to be upset however upset you want to be, but I don't know if I have like that much energy to give to being overly emotional about a schedule that's going to look different every single year, give or take, based on how teams look over the course of the season. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. I want to bring on Caden Smith to unpack this together and just kind of have a conversation about this. There's a lot of intel over at On3.com. Andy and Ari actually had Chris Lowe on their show, so if you want to get some more detailed information about this whole thing, go check out that video. We're just going to talk about this right now, though, Cato. Anything that jumps out to you when you look at this list of annual opponents that are on deck here for the SEC?
Yeah, as you know, I'm a proponent of bringing the divisions back.
Sure.
In the SEC, and I think this is a good step in that direction as far as getting back to the regionality and the rivalries of college football that seem to have gone to the wayside a little bit when you look at these super conferences and getting the divisions away and teams bouncing around from league to league. So I like that aspect of it. I'm not, you know me, like I'm not an SEC homer of any of these teams. I grew up in Georgia, so I'm familiar with the Georgia-Florida rivalry, but it seems like they got every rivalry right, which I think is the thing that the fans care about the most. And I think it sparks a lot of good debate as far as one fan base thinking they're rivals with someone more than another fan base and all that stuff. So it's good to get the one set in stone. Like, I think getting the Iron Bowl and Red River, like, those were all locks. I think more so the thing that I'm curious about is how they're going to change things moving forward from a competitive balance standpoint. Like, what does that mean? Like, how drastic are we willing to go if Kentucky just gets wiped by Florida, Tennessee, and South Carolina every single year the next 3 years? Like, are we going to all of a sudden just make them an annual opponent with another team that's not doing well? Like, I'm curious to see where they go with that because, again, like, the old schooledness of it is like, hey, man, you look up any rivalry and go on Wikipedia and you'll see stretches where a team ran it for like 10 straight years and a back and forth. Like, that's a part of the history and part of the tradition. So no strong thoughts, just more so happy that we have this now, and it sparks a lot of good stuff as far as the SEC with stuff between fan bases and stuff between teams, I think.
And I think the point Chris Lowe made on Andy and Ari's show this morning was, hey, you see these 3 teams as your annual opponents, and it's easy to get worked up and say, oh my gosh, we're just pick a team here. We're Oklahoma. We got Ole Miss, Texas, and Missouri. Or, I mean, if that's a stretch you're upset about, or if you're a better example, I guess, is going back to A&M. We got LSU and Texas and Missouri. It's like, Yes, but when you throw 6 other opponents onto a schedule,
Yeah.
it's going to probably leave you feeling a different way than looking at just those 3 annual opponents you're going to have every year.
Yeah, and it's like seeing that G on your schedule, that's not fun for anybody.
No.
Whether it's an annual opponent, someone you play, like there's certain logos that are just never going to be fun to play, and that's a part of being in the SEC. So I feel like the gripe's more so about fans feeling that they should play certain teams. Like it's a luck of the draw thing. Like Tennessee, like Vanderbilt's in your state. Like we talked about how that might trend in a different direction for Vanderbilt, but historically being in the same state as Vanderbilt and neighboring Kentucky, as far as football goes for Tennessee, like that's a good draw. Are we going to take that away because all of a sudden they're on the losing end of that annual opponent list too often than not? We'll see, but in general, man, I like to see some of the old Big 12 stuff too, like seeing Missouri getting to mix it up with A&M and Texas and Arkansas back in the fold. Like that's all good to see for sure. And I think it'll be interesting to see the renewed rivalry stuff too. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about like Georgia and Alabama and Georgia and Texas. Like these are teams that are at the top of the conference that play in the postseason, will probably continue to play in the postseason moving forward. I'm curious if that becomes a thing where competitive balance, these teams are clearly both really good every year. They kind of beat everyone else they play. Do we put them against each other regularly is like just a renewed rivalry almost. I feel like the whole Saban-Kirby thing and the postseason success we saw from those two teams kind of created a rivalry. We'll see what happens this Saturday. Same with Texas joining the conference. I'd be curious to see if that's maybe the direction they go in when they do make some changes here in the future. Is do we pit some of these big dogs more against each other than on some of the smaller fries?
And some of these things that change too, it's like how many opponents are really going to change for a team like an Auburn? Like, are we really going to take away the Georgia-Auburn rivalry, take away the Bama-Auburn rivalry? Okay, so those two are going to stay intact. Who's that third team going to be in 4 years? You know, like some of these you look at and you can almost pick out 2 that will stay if you are prioritizing rivalries. But yeah, I don't know. It all feels very fluid to me, which again is a reason why it's tough to get too upset about at this point in time. What is the Missouri logo in 4 years? What is Ole Miss logo in 4 years? What do you think of A&M in 4 years with Mike Elko, the way they're trending? So a lot of this is just like it's hard to not be a prisoner of the moment as I look at these teams in front of me when it comes to the annual opponents. But if I'm gonna gripe a little bit, like we talked about this when we first saw this, Cato, no Bama LSU guaranteed.
That's the biggest.
Years.
I think that's the biggest omission.
They might still get it because I know that we're gonna have this revealed tonight when it comes to the other rotational opponents, but no Tennessee, Florida either. That feels like it's got some rivalry juice to it, some staying power. Again, we're all being idealistic here. 9 conference games. It'll be a lot of really good games, but I don't know. Any other parting shots on that, Cato, before we move on here?
Yeah, I've lived in Tennessee a little over a year, and I can comfortably say that I think across the board, talking to Tennessee fans, they hate Florida the most. So not seeing them is a little weird. The LSU and Bama games at night have become, I think, a staple in the SEC, so it's tough not to see that there. But yeah, at the end of the day, when we get the full schedules going into a year, how often are we going to be thinking about this? Maybe a fan base who's playing a team they normally don't play all of a sudden every year, and it maybe doesn't go their way. It's okay, we're not rivals with Ole Miss. Why are we getting smacked up by Ole Miss now every year? That might be the only time it gets propped up. But I don't think this is gonna be something that's thought of as much once we get into the full schedule, see how it all balances out. And look, Florida, Oklahoma, some of these teams that we came into the season saying they have the hardest schedule ever, that's still going to exist in the SEC, whether you have the annual opponents or not. The conference is looking very bloodbathish this year, and I think the annual opponents may have a little bit of an impact on that. But overall, just cool to see some of these logos and the tradition kind of be sustained for me and the regionalness of it all. And way easier on these fan bases as well, I think, trying to get to these games.
2 parting thoughts. One, with 9 conference games, we're going to see a lot of these teams play each other more frequently. There was a stretch there we hadn't seen Georgia Bama unless they were playing in Atlanta in a number of years. That's the first thought. So you'll see more of these matchups more frequently, which is a good thing, I think, across the SEC. Second thought, if you were a college football fan of the SEC and you're like, dang, this is going to hurt our playoff chances, right? I don't think that's the case. I don't think the SEC makes a move like this to go to 9 conference games unless they have a pretty good indication they're going to get some more guaranteed playoff spots. So I'd be slow to make any snap assumptions about your playoff projections if you see your permanent opponents and you think you're cooked. I don't think it's quite that cut and dry. And I think overall, it's one of those things we hold with open hands, we watch it play out, and we'll just take the information as it goes. But Cato, great stuff, man. I appreciate you adding to the conversation there.
Of course,
and,
man.
Making it go.
Yeah, I don't think Greg Sankey's making any. I don't think he's made any moves that have hurt the SEC regarding the CFP, and I don't think he's going to start right now. So we'll see how it goes out, man, for sure. But there's an SEC matchup we have to talk about. Not an annual opponent, but
what a segue!
An exciting game.
What a segue! But lay it just. Assist king, Caden Smith in the ones and the twos, but he's on the money, man. We got a big one, College Station, Auburn at Texas A&M. A&M favored by 6.5, 3:30 Eastern. It's going to be a good time, man. For A&M, can you prove that you're actually the new A&M? Because that was kind of the discussion we had post-Notre Dame. Hey, met the moment, 4th and goal, Marcel Reed, put yourself down into the history books of A&M lore with a throw like that when you walk it off against Notre Dame. Awesome. Okay, great. Enjoyed that moment. Enjoyed the bye week. Everyone's talking about how good A&M is. It's not just us anymore on this show. Are you able to flush that win, hit the reset button, and be your best with a scrappy Auburn team coming to town? Because Auburn, they lost the game to Oklahoma. I think Auburn fans have a lot of opinions on the refs, and I think you're 110% in the right. So does the SEC. But let's bounce back here, huh? Let's see some fight. Year 3 under Hugh Freeze. This is still a super freaking talented roster. That number of 6.5 is a little bit larger than I would have expected. I digress. If Auburn is who we believe they are in their 3rd year, I think they'll respond the right way. I think the character of Auburn is in a I want to make sure I say this the correct way because I'm not saying anything negative of previous Auburn teams when it comes to competitive character. But last year, Auburn lost a game the previous weekend and then went on to lose 3 more. That 3rd week of September, they lost that game and then lost 3 more. They let 1 turn into 2, turn into 3, turn into 4. I don't think that'll be this Auburn team, just so we're all aligned here. Biggest spot in this game, though, for me to watch, A&M, we got to stop the run, dude. We got to stop the run because Auburn, if I'm Hugh Freeze, I'm licking my chops seeing that Notre Dame game. Yeah, you won the game. Awesome. Took 41 points, though. Took a botched extra point to win that game if you're A&M. Because Auburn, what they're going to do is run the freaking ball. And I understand we got to throw the ball to win at some point in time. I get that. We'll talk about that in a second. But I am doubling down on our identity of running the football and making A&M prove they can stop us on the ground before we open ourselves up to shots downfield for Cam Coleman and Singleton and that whole party. A&M is allowing 4 yards a carry. Auburn is running the ball 57% of the time. So here's my gut. I think Auburn will commit to the run early. I think that's going to force A&M to roll those safeties down, be a little bit more trigger happy, and get in the box. So when that happens, then I say, okay, Jackson Arnold, if they're stopping y'all on the ground or at least forcing you to do something else offensively, we got to hit the shot. Got to hit the shot. When there's money on the table, we got one-on-one with Cam Coleman. Different than last week against Oklahoma, we got to connect on those, brother, because those are game-changing kind of plays, kind of throws that can put the pressure back on A&M to have to respond, okay? So that's a big thing to watch in this game. Is A&M able to stop the run? And if they do, at what cost? Is it a thing where we got big real estate down the sideline for Eric Singleton? Because if there is, Jackson Arnold, the ball's in your hands. Let's go make it happen, brother, okay? Now, the chess game here, big chess game week for us on this Tuesday edition. A&M's OC Colin Klein against DJ Durkin, Auburn's DC. The best offensive coordinators, in my opinion, in college football, they love pressure. And not just like pressure of the moment. Like they love when you apply a little bit extra heat to their quarterback. Why? Because when you do that, you are betting our guys will get to your quarterback before they know what's going on and deliver the football where that pressure was coming from. So if I'm Colin Klein, I'm saying, all right, Marcel, pre-snap answers, baby, got them for you. If they can find those answers pre-snap and get one over on this Auburn defense, I don't love the Auburn secondary all that much. I think that the weapons that A&M has is a difference-making ingredient for this A&M team. Craver, Concepcion, I mean, they're just a 1-2 punch, Batman and Batman. They got guys that can burn, does A&M. So then the question becomes, Marcel, Colin Klein, can y'all get in the lab a little bit and cook up like Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, and make sure you have those answers dialed in to where you know what you're looking at pre-snap, know where to go with the football, catch Auburn slipping, and create big plays. Because if it doesn't happen that way, it's pretty straightforward. Auburn's going to force a lot of 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and at that point, as good as that Auburn front seven is, they can pin their ears back, make Marcel Reed uncomfortable, and bad things happen when that's your case with an uncomfortable quarterback in the world of college football. Now, This game, honestly, I think could come down to the battle in the perimeter we just mentioned with Craver and Concepcion and the Auburn secondary. Auburn has been quietly now the best in college football against the run, allowing 1.9 yards per carry. That's against good offenses like a Baylor. That's against good offenses like an Oklahoma. 1.9 yards per carry is ridiculous. Again, it's the best in college football. So the question then, in the same vein of what I just said a second ago, A&M, if your usual running game isn't really there, like let's just say that we live in a world where Auburn lives up to that number, and they're in the range of 2.5 yards per carry allowed in the context of this game. Le'Veon Moss can't really get going. Marcel Reed legs can't really get going. Can you throw to win the game? My worry in this spot for Auburn is it may not take that many points to win this game. That's not me saying anything less of Jackson Arnold. It's just what I've seen over the course of this season to this point against quality competition. I think the Auburn offense, as good as they are on the ground, I think they're a bit limited. Like, if they get down 14-3, I don't love the prospects of that, throwing their way back into the game, especially on the road here. Now, if Auburn's going to win this game, going back to the passing game situation here for Marcel Reed versus that secondary, I think it would take an extra possession or two for Auburn. I think you'd have to see like the turnover game from Marcel Reed where he's seeing ghosts or he's getting hit as he's throwing and the ball's up in the air and it's Auburn's ball the other way because of a tip pass interception. Here's my thing, though. I'm still drinking the Mike Elko Kool-Aid, man. I'm believing in it. I'm trusting it. 6.5 is a lot, though. I'll go ahead and take A&M to win. It's a big number, so I don't love this, but I'll go ahead and take A&M to cover. I think it is very, very close, though, on the coverage. I wouldn't touch the number for the record. I think final score is A&M 24, Auburn 17. Again, the difference, Craver, Concepcion, Auburn's going to be good in the run game, but when it comes to defending the pass, I think those guys are difference makers. I think Marshall Reed and Colin Klein will be dialed in their second year together in the system. A&M wins. The defense makes a play at the end of the game for the Aggies to walk it off, stalling out an Auburn drive to try and tie it at the end. So again, Texas A&M wins very, very marginally, find a coverage at the end of this game. All right. Now moving on to another spread of a touchdown. USC at Illinois in Champaign. This is shocking to me. USC favored by 7. All right, big noon kickoff will be there. For USC, this is your chance now to put the entire college football world on notice. We did a video on this last week, I believe it was, and said, hey, USC, you're ranked. That's awesome, but nobody's talking about you really. Like no one's getting that excited that you beat Purdue. No one's overwhelmingly excited you beat a Michigan State team at home. But if you beat Illinois, the team that was a lot of people's trendy pick to make the college football playoff, people start looking at USC and saying, maybe that is a different USC than we've seen in previous years. Remains to be seen. Now for Illinois, we got to get up off the mat here. Okay, the Indiana game was one you'd like to forget. Here's the thing. Great teams, great organizations, they forget their failures. Not they don't learn from them, not they don't watch the tape and get better from it, but like you get up off the mat and say, that wasn't us. Let's go get right now. In a big spot here with a lot of people watching in this game with USC coming to town. If I'm in Illinois, I feel disrespected by 7 points. Like, I understand that the game against Indiana was a horrific look, but 7 points at our place, a home dog? I don't know. Home dogs tend to bite. How real is the new USC? And what I mean by that is USC, when Lincoln Riley got there, you knew the skill players would be there. You knew the quarterback would be there. You knew the offense would be fun to watch. But USC has made this effort over the course of the last couple of years to get better on the line of scrimmage in the Big Ten, to be able to hold their own up there. They think they've done that. Is that the case? Right now, they're allowing 3 yards a carry, which is one of the best in America. They are averaging 7.1 yards a carry on the ground. That's top 5 in college football. Everybody loves Wayman, man. Not Raymond. Everybody loves Wayman Jordan. He's been a dog for them. JUCO transfer. Expect him to get a lot of touches in this spot. They do a great job getting him out in space. A lot of outside run stuff. He's a guy to watch here in this game. If they get rolling on the ground and they can stop the run against Illinois, it could get ugly. It could get ugly. Now, here's the thing. Luke Altmaier, he's going to have something to say about that. Illinois' quarterback. I don't question Luke Altmaier. I don't even have as many questions around the Illinois weaponry. I just question Illinois' ability to protect Luke Altmaier. They are 132nd in America when it comes to protecting the quarterback. And that's a bizarre stat to say out loud because Illinois has got a lot of their offensive line back. So I don't know if I even question the personnel for Illinois up front. I just question like who this Illinois offensive line is relative to what we saw last year. Like, can you help your quarterback have some time? Because if you can, I think that he's good enough to deliver the mail. And I also think that USC defensively, that secondary, they've been all right when it comes to what they've been over the course of this season on the box score side of things, if you're just tracking like how USC is trending defensively. But if you look at the fine print there are some explosives to be had against this USC secondary. Michigan State, they weren't awesome offensively, but they had plays of 75, 42, 19 through the air. Against Purdue, USC handled that game, had 3 picks. Purdue still went for over 300 yards through the air. So the point in all this is Luke Altmaier is good enough, should he have time, and Illinois is good enough on the perimeter, should they have time, to have some plays downfield. The question is, does he have time? Can you help my guy out when it comes to protecting the Illini signal caller? Now, how comfortable is Jaden Maiava? Because if you're able to have a certain pace about you against this Illinois defense, and you're able to see everything in real time and process the defense, it's kind of been a theme throughout the course of this season, but like there's plays to be had. Illinois is a aggressive man coverage kind of defense, and the way that Indiana just diced them up, to me says, okay, the personnel on the back end for Illinois, may not be what they've been in the past. Okay, so that goes back to the quarterback. Can you process the pressure, see where it's coming from, find your guy in the real estate, get north and south, score a lot of points? Because who couldn't do that with Darian Mensah? Darian Mensah was running all around. Pressure eventually got to him. Couple of strip sacks. Like, that's how they ended up losing the game. When you talk about the Duke-Illinois game, kind of 2 different sample sizes. Is Jaden Maiava closer to the composure of Fernando Mendoza, seen it all, or is he closer to Darian Mensah? 2 very different game flows, 2 very different results for the Illinois defense, but that's something to watch for in this spot. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for Jaden Maiava, but this is a chance now for us to see, okay, you've been in the Lincoln Riley lab of quarterback development. What's the result here in week 5? Jaden, are we able to be comfortable, play at our own pace, play with some poise, and deliver the football to our skill players? Because I think USC skill players could be the difference. And that's kind of where I fall in this whole thing. I don't love the schematic matchup when it comes to how Illinois plays defense and how Lincoln Riley is going to call the offense. I think USC is a lot better than even people realize in the run game, so that can set them up. But I also just think that the man and pressure ingredients against USC, I think Lincoln Riley is licking his chops and saying, you're going to play man and try and bring some extra numbers that you sacrifice on the back end to get after my quarterback. Okay, I'm going to give him answers. And when he gives answers and we get it to our guys in space, good things happen. So if you're going to dare Lincoln Riley to beat you offensively, I think he will. I think it's potential here for some points. All right, the over is 59.5, or the over-under 59.5. I don't mind the over there. We'll see if we take it or not. Final score, though, USC goes into Champaign. I wouldn't touch the spread for the record, but final score is USC 36-31 and puts the entire college football world on notice. You at least got to account for the Trojans in the context of the Big Ten and the college football playoff conversation. And if that happens, that'll be something to talk about, man, because there's been a lot said about Lincoln Riley and how he has operated as a head coach, how he's built his rosters. He won't do this and that in the Big Ten. If you go beat a coach in Brett Bielema who majors in the line of scrimmage, I don't know if it's like a we've arrived moment, but it is a moment where you got to take USC a touch more seriously because of the brand of ball that would require. So neither here nor there. Last game to break down here, Ohio State going to Washington. Ohio State favored by 8.5, 3:30 Eastern, CBS Husky Stadium. Ohio State, man. Hear that buzz in the background? Hear that little annoying noise going off? That's your alarm clock, okay? The time for snoozing is over with. Texas game happened. Kind of just hang out for a little bit against Ohio, against Grambling. That's all well and good. Got to ramp it back up now, though. Season restarts here if you're Ohio State. For Washington, this is the kind of win that can change the entire trajectory of your season. If you go beat Ohio State at the crib, think about the confidence, the swagger, just the overall outlook you have on your season if you're Washington the rest of the way. Now, Washington, they still got some tough games on the schedule. Got to play Oregon at the end of the year. But if you can beat Ohio State, I don't think there's a limit to what you can accomplish if you're Jed Fish and company out there. Now, going back to Ohio State, how does Julian Sayin handle the atmosphere here in Husky Stadium? Because this is kind of his next test as a Jedi Knight, if you will. Julian Sayin great composure against Texas, but that was in the shoe. Okay? I don't doubt Julian Sain's ability. I'm just curious to see how he responds when he's got a bunch of people screaming at him from the sideline with Husky Stadium on top of him, people saying bad things about his family. Are you able to have the composure at that point in time? Now, I don't think it's a better defense than what Texas had, but it is going to be a little bit of a different volume around you when it comes to how he operates. If Julian Sain is able to avoid that ugly turnover kind of game that we have always kind of always been on the lookout for with first-year starting quarterbacks, then you get it to your playmakers, then you play on schedule, then good things happen, and you feel pretty good about your chances to win the game. But the game, I think, here for the overall matchup on the defensive side for Ohio State is how do they handle the Washington playmakers in space? Because Washington now, very quietly, they got some dudes that can move. Like Jonah Coleman is a dog in space, runs behind his pads real well. Damon Williams, the quarterback for Washington, is lightning in a bottle. Like, he tucks it and runs. He is a liability to score from anywhere. Denzel Boston, receiver for Washington on the outside, is an absolute playmaker. Washington does a phenomenal job when you watch them of making sure their best players impact the game as much as possible. Like Jonah Coleman, I told you, he's a bigger back of sorts. They threw him the football a lot against Washington State. He had over 100 yards receiving against Washington State. He's a guy that they are going to force feed the ball to. They're not going to leave the stadium and say, man, I wish Damon Williams had more opportunities in the run game. I wish we had targeted Denzel Boston more. And so with that being the approach philosophically, they also do a great job of making sure they get the ball to their playmakers with some deception pre-snap, trying to get the eyes of the defense rocking and rolling. Bottom line, they're going to win with scheme as well and make it so it's our guy versus your guy in the alley. We got one man to beat. Ohio State, if you tackle, you win the game. And that's a boring thing to say, but that's kind of how I see this whole thing playing out. If Washington's able to have the angle or just straight up wins the mismatch or the matchup rather in the alley, then Washington's going to win the football game. Like, they have that much firepower to get that done. Because if you turn the game on Julian Sain and say, hey, Julian, you're down 10 in the third quarter, you got to throw to go win against Washington with that stadium behind you, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't love that. Like, Ryan Walters, the defensive coordinator for Washington, is one of the better defensive minds in college football. Previously was a head coach at Purdue. It didn't work out. But make no mistake, he's going to be aggressive against this young signal caller. All right, he understands, hey, personnel-wise, Ohio State's Ohio State. We got to make sure we confuse him a little bit. Make sure we get him off his spot a little bit here. If he can do that successfully and confuse Sain, all bets are off, man. All bets are off. So here's my Karl Anthony Towns take, if you will. After all that, I like Ohio State's line of scrimmage. Even if Julian Sain gets a little bit squirrely and we have a game where it's 2 picks for Julian Sain and Ohio State doesn't look like Ohio State, I still think that the game we saw against Texas should hold some weight in our minds of the kind of game Ohio State can win. They can turn around, still hand it to 12 and hand it to Bo Jackson and hand it to Peoples. Like, if they can just roll with that stable of backs with Donaldson, all the guys I just mentioned, I think that's going to be a style of game that Ohio State can just feel good about playing and slow down Washington offensively by nature of shrinking the game. Simply put, I just think there's too much there for Ohio State on the offensive side. And on the defensive side, I don't feel great about Washington's offensive line. Allowed 3 sacks to Washington State, 7 tackles for a loss. No knock on Wazoo, but if that's happening against Washington State, Ohio State's saying, okay, spot the ball. So I'll take Ohio State to win. I'll take Ohio State to cover something like I could see it being like 35-24 territory. 24 would be a lot of points, but Washington can do that to you. So I'll take Ohio State to win, Ohio State to cover on the road, and a big-time road win, notching the belt for Julian Sain and the Buckeyes. But it's going to be a good weekend, man. I cannot wait for it. Again, more picks coming up for you. Tomorrow we'll preview little Florida State, Virginia, or at least talk about the game. We'll preview Tennessee, Mississippi State. Don't look now, but Blake Shapen, Jeff Levy, they got Starkville jumping. Does that translate to this game against Tennessee? Remains to be seen. But appreciate y'all making the show what it is. For Caden Smith on the ones and twos, the microphone. For y'all making the show what it is as well. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. The party rolls on. Like I just said, we will see y'all next time.